Today is Wednesday, February 22nd, 2012, and Joe Turner and myself, Judy Meyer, are talking to Charlie Bowden. Is that how you pronounce your name?
Correct.
How do you spell that, Charlie?
B as in boy, O-W-D-E-N.
Charlie, how long did you live in Bridgeton?
Actually moved into Bridgeton in 1967, but I had a business in Bridgeton since 1962.
Well, let's back up a little bit and take it from the start. Where were you born?
I was born in Little Rock, Arkansas,
Okay, what year?
1933.
And what brought you into St. Louis?
Well, my father deserted us, and then he came back on the condition we would move to St. Louis.
Whose condition was that?
His.
Oh.
And he would come back and to the family, and we would move to St. Louis. So that's how I ended up in St. Louis.
Why
in my
did-
senior year of high school.
Why was that important?
I think he had relatives here. He had a brother living here, and he wanted to start life over.
Oh.
So,
Did you
and
have...
I think he might have been a little embarrassed to try to come back to our hometown after deserting us, and everybody knew that. So I think he just wanted to get away.
I see.
That's
So
my
make a new
opinion.
start.
Make a new start.
Was it a good start?
Not really. About 2 years later, he deserted us
Oh
again.
my goodness, I'm sorry.
So
Did you have brothers or sisters?
I got a sister, lives in Florida.
Is she younger or older than you?
She's 6 years younger than I am.
Okay. So when you came to St. Louis, you were already finished with high school?
No, I came here in the last year of high school, and I went to Soda and Blewett, which was a predominant Jewish high school
In the city?
of the city.
And when you finished high school, what did you do then?
I worked for a company called Food Center, which became National Food Stores, and then Uncle Sam called me.
Oh, really?
And so I went off into the Korean War. Although I did not go to Korea, I went the other way. I went to Germany.
What branch of the military were you in?
Army,
What did they train you to do?
be a helicopter mechanic.
Oh.
I was lousy.
Did you?
I ended up being a supply sergeant.
A what?
A supply sergeant.
A supply sergeant.
So,
You know, Elvis went to Germany. Were you there when Elvis was there?
yes, yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, I didn't know too much about it. Other than we was hearing things about this young singer, and when he got drafted in the service, it made the news everywhere, and we kept hearing about him. But he did not come where I was at. We was on the Czechoslovakian border, and so we was the first line of defense if the Russians come across the Czech border. We was there to try to stop them. So
Were they advancing? Was that a bad threat? In what year were you in Germany?
I was in Germany in 55, 56, 57, somewhere in that time.
Was that what we call the Cold War during
That's what
those
we call the
years?
Cold War, and I didn't learn till years later that the Army plan was that they knew we couldn't stop them, but to try to delay them until they got more into Germany, and then that's where all the United States troops really was. So we was out on that border. So we were somewhat what they called, we were expendable, I guess.
You were expendable?
Yeah, so I didn't learn that until later. That I read what the American plans was. And they thought they might come across the Czech border. So
Wow.
How
How long were you in Germany?
a little over a year.
Okay.
So I wasn't there all that long.
No. Did you spend any military time other places?
United States. I spent some time in Fort Riley, Kansas, and came over there, Gary Air Force Base in Texas, right outside of San Antonio.
How old were you when you discharged from the military?
Discharged the military, I was 24.
What did you do then?
I went back to the food center and they hired me back. And,
That's nice.
And
Where was it located, the food center where you worked?
well, the main one I worked at, the last one I worked at was in Olivet on Olive Street Road. The store is long gone now, but they had a store there, and I opened that store up as a produce manager.
Oh, I see.
So
I see. And where did you live at that time?
Actually, I had just moved out, just right outside of Bridgeton, in Maryland Heights, a place called Chatham Village, across from the high school.
I see. And how long did you work for Food Center then?
Well, let's see, I was 59, and I really started while I was in school, 9 years, 10 years.
I see.
So
And then what did you change careers?
I became an insurance agent, or at that time to Metropolitan, and then State Farm wanted to hire me, and so I told them when my daughter was born, I would make the change, and she was born in April of 1961. I became a State Farm agent.
How did you become interested in being an insurance agent?
Well, I was always impressed with these guys that come and walked into the store in their suits and everything, and I felt like I had a little gift of gab, and I just felt like I could do that. And I think they made pretty good money, and I thought, well, I think I'll try that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Now, you say you had a daughter born, so I assume you got married sometime between...
oh, I got married in 1954.
So that was...
54, yes.
So that was after you got out of the military, or
No,
while you were still in?
while I was in the military, and she ended up going to Germany with me,
Oh, really?
and so we had a
What was
baby.
her name?
Berna. It's like Bernadine, but
Mhm.
it's Berna. She doesn't go with the Dean part. So
Was she from St. Louis?
she was from Kansas and moved to St. Louis, and so we met here in St. Louis. I was doing a job that the computer's done away with. I was a pen setter, and she came in the bowl at the Wilson Bowl, and I was pen setting there, and that's how we met.
That's nice.
Where
Say-
was the Wellston bowling alley?
It was on the Rock Road. I don't remember the street, but you went over that bridge and into Wellston. It was right there. And the guy that owned it was at one time was a baseball announcer for the St. Louis Cardinals back in the early '40s before Harry Carey.
So that was actually in the city of Wellston rather
Right,
than in
City
St.
of
Louis.
Wellston. Yes.
So maybe near the Ford dealer there, or their Western Auto store.
I don't
I
remember.
don't remember those places.
I just remember where the store. I could go there, but I didn't. What was
So
it?
you were working as a pen setter, was that like a part-time job?
Yes.
As well as you were doing
working
the
in
food
grocery-
liner?
Yes, I was setting pins on the side. I liked to bowl, and I got to know them real well, and they needed a pin setter, so when I had time off, I'd set pins.
Did you get your bowling free if you worked there?
I don't think so. I don't really recall. I know when I bowled in league, I had to pay just like everybody else, so I probably could have bowled free if I got somebody to set pins for me. So
And you say your wife was also bowling?
she had come with her girlfriend, and they was bowling, and they met a friend of mine. And when I came back out of the pits, he had said that we'd take them home, and from there, romance blossomed, and I married, and I've been married to her all these years.
Wonderful, that sounds very nice. And where did you get married?
We got married at a Methodist church on Goodfellow. So
Okay.
that's where she went to church.
I see.
And I came home on leave. I was on my way to Fort Sheridan for reassignment, and we got married on my way to Chicago.
So she went with you to Germany.
She didn't go with me. She came over later.
I see. And how long then was she in Germany with you?
I
do you
think
remember?
about 6 months.
Okay. That's kind of a nice, interesting experience for
Yeah.
both of you.
Yeah, 6 to 8 months, something like that.
When you returned from the service and you lived where with your
We
wife?
lived in, well, we first lived on a street called a 4-family flat on Humphrey, South St. Louis. Then we moved up north off of Goodfellow, and Terry was the street we lived on,
I see.
a 4-family flat.
Did your wife work?
No. I was able to support the family, so
And you have how many children?
4.
4 children. I think she worked a lot.
so
And you say that you became an insurance agent with Metropolitan Life?
right. And one of my clients was a manager for State Farm, and he was wanting to hire me.
Uh-huh.
And that's how I made a connection with State Farm.
In
He offered me a deal.
1961, you say?
He started talking to me in probably 1960, but I said, no, my wife's pregnant, and I'm not going to change job until after the baby born.
Right, I think that would have made her nervous.
So that's what happened.
So your career with State Farm, how long did that last?
To 1998.
About what, 37
37
years?
37
Okay.
years.
And where were you located?
Well, I started off at, I spent some time in University City, but almost my whole career was here in Bridgeton.
Oh, really?
I moved out in Bridgeton in 62 or 63, and I had an office at across from Brannigan's there, underneath the Teresa's cafeteria at the time.
Underneath what
There
cafeteria?
was a cafeteria today, I'm not sure what the thing, it might be a bar there now, but at one time it was called Teresa's Cafeteria.
Teresa's Cafeteria, was that on St. Charles Rock Road?
Yeah, right across the street from Brannigan.
Well, that was the,
Star?
it had another name earlier. What was it?
Something Star?
No, that was on Highway 70.
Evening
Right across
Shade?
from Brankett.
Evening Shade? That doesn't sound familiar to you?
I always do it as Teresa's Cafeteria.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
We have a menu from that place.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, with a different name.
So, so that was in 1962, I think. I was there, and then I moved over at McKelvey Natural Bridge when they built that little strip shopping center.
McKelvey and Natural
Yeah.
Bridge.
Yeah, it burned about 3 years ago.
Oh, was that the one Tony's restaurant was in?
Right. In fact, supposedly the place that started the fire, or the fire started from, was my original office. The guy repairs shoes, and he left some liquids or something out by the furnace, and that's what really started the fire. They determined. But I had moved from there about two doors down for a bigger location. But my original office was right next to where Tony's is.
Can you just briefly tell us a little bit about Tony's? Because he was kind of an icon here in Bridgeton for a long time.
Well, it didn't. They started out as a chain. I can't remember the name of it now. And it went through a couple ownership, and then Tony came in, and he's well known for his omelets. And I guess he was there 7, 8 years. He passed away, and then his wife and daughters ran the place.
I didn't know that.
And now they're located, I understand, out in St. Charles County somewhere.
Would you call it kind of like a diner?
Oh yes, that would be a real good cafe, diner. And it was pretty well known. I had, our regional office at the time was in Columbia, Missouri, and people would come in town just to come in to go to eat.
Oh, really?
So from Columbia, some of the people I knew would come by and they'd stop by and say hi to me, but they was coming in town. Not necessarily to see me, but they had to, if they was coming in town, they wanted to go to Tony's.
Is that right?
So for those omelets.
Now, just a place that Tony's was kind of like catty corner from the Carrollton Shopping Center.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And there were several things that have come in and out across the street. You know, many actually businesses have traded hands
Right.
in that area. But your insurance office was located right there on Natural Bridge in
Yes.
McKelvey.
Right across the street from the mobile station.
Uh-huh. And you were there for how long?
37 years.
Wow.
Well, not 37 years, about 35 years, I guess.
And then did you also live in Bridgeton?
Yes, in 1967, I moved up the scale and moved to Carrollton.
What street in
Oaks.
Carrollton?
On Pont in Carrollton Oaks. So I moved there in 1967.
Were your children going to school during that time?
Oh yes, in fact, Carrollton Oaks just opened the year that, after we moved in, I guess, and I put 3 children through Carrollton Oaks Elementary.
You
No.
kept the Carrollton Oaks busy.
Yes,
And did they all three graduate from Pattonville?
they all four. And I already had one boy who was in middle school, and then my three other children was in elementary.
Mm-hmm.
And all four are graduates of Pattonville High School.
Were they also in other activities during that time, scouts or sports?
My daughter played softball for the school and played basketball, and she made all district in basketball. The other three, I can't really recall anything that they did as athletic-wise or anything like that. Yes, they were in Cub Scouts, but that didn't last forever.
Uh-huh.
So,
And what about you and your wife? Were you active in Bridgeton politics or anything?
not so much in politics, just active in community affairs, I would say, be more like it.
And what type of community affairs were they?
Well, I was one of the four men that started the Bridgeton Kiwanis Club.
Can you briefly tell us, what does that mean, Kiwanis? What?
Well, the goal of the Kiwanis Club is supposedly originally businessmen would get together and the original goal and talk about business and how they could help each other. But then it became more than that. It became more community minded. How can we make our city a better place to live in? And that really, to touch people's lives is what we try to do.
So you said you were one of the original four businessmen.
Before I started, our founding was a man by the name of Lud Petracek, who lived in Carrollton. And he had gone he wanted to start a club, and he went to the bank, Mark Twain Bank, and they told him to come over and see me. And so I don't know if I was second or third, because Mark Twain Bank said that they would give someone to be on the, and that was a man by the name of Al Crowder. And then my preacher came in, and so the forest was the original.
And who was your minister?
Reverend Richard Judd. At that time, it was Penn Junction Baptist Church. It's not there anymore. Grace Christian has bought the building and everything. So
The great big church up there on,
right. On McKelvey.
Thank you, okay then.
And our church is part of their building. They kept the old building, but they enclosed it around and everything. So, but they came in and bought us out, and
I see.
and the church relocated and changed their name.
What does the word Kiwanis, where does that come from? That's an interesting word in itself. What is that? What is the base of that word?
I'm embarrassed to tell you, I don't know for sure, but I believe it's an Indian name.
Yeah, that could be.
But I really don't know how they came up with the name Kiwanis. So I should know, but I don't.
Well, I just was, one of these days maybe we'll find that out. And are the Kiwanis still operating in this year of 2012?
It's one of the strongest clubs they have, and so a lot of the Kiwanis clubs are no longer around. But the Bridgeton Club has been all these years. That they became a charter in 1967.
What type of activities did they do, say? Are you still active in the Bridgeton Kiwanis?
I'm still active. I've had some health problems. I haven't been as active as I once was, but I still go and try to stay active as much as I can.
What kind of activities have they done since you've been involved with them?
Well, we used to do a lot with playgrounds. We was a big supporter of the parks. We put in the playground equipment when Freeborn became a park. We actually started a senior citizen program before the senior citizen Bridgeton had a senior citizen committee. I was involved in that. Pastor from Beautiful Savior, whose name escaped me, and some lady, we met with her, and she wanted to start a program where people was to call in every day, older people, and if they didn't call in, then we would call them to be sure they was okay.
Oh, okay.
And our club paid the phone bills, so I went and took it back to the club, and they paid the phone bill.
Was that Paul Priney?
I'm sorry?
Paul Priney? Was that the man's name?
No.
He was
no.
with Beautiful Savior for many years.
This would go back in the early '60s.
Oh, okay.
And then we started right after I was, on the first year, I was appointed to the Senior Citizens Committee of Bridgeton. And we had a gentleman by the name of Sam Teeter, who was the principal of Pattonville Elementary, and been here for years and years. And he was on the committee, and he said, I'd like to have a picnic for the senior citizens. So I took his suggestion back to the club, and we decided we'll have and it's been going on all these years, we still have it. We furnish the food, we barbecue, and they bring a dish. And so the senior citizen every year comes out to that, and we're very much involved in that. We give out scholarships to high school students. We sponsor a club in the high school.
Is that the Key Club?
The Key Club, you're correct. So we sponsor the Key Club. We're one of the few clubs that has there's a few around St. Louis, but they got a very good Key Club in Pattonville High School. And so we sponsored that. We have programs at elementary schools, read, where we go over and read with the elementary children. I'm not involved in that, so, but we have a pancake breakfast every Palm Sunday. We've done that for I don't know how many years.
And that's held at the Bridgeton Community Center?
That's held at the Bridgeton Community
Yeah,
Center.
my husband and I have attended that several times.
Yes, so we have that, so we done, and I had the honor of, when I was the president of the club, to raise the flag at the new City Hall.
Oh, yes?
Bridgeton, when they dedicated the new City Hall, they gave me the honor of raising the flag.
Well, how
So-
nice.
So, I'm not so sure it was me personally as much was the work that the club was done, and so I was the president that year, so that's why I had the honor, so.
Was that on the occasion of moving those memorial plaques from the old City Hall to the new City Hall?
Well, that's been
Is
done,
that a
so
separate-
the old flagpole, was there when, from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And we engrave, every time Uncle William passed away, his name is engraved
Mm-hmm.
on the stone there. And I understand that they have moved it to the new City
Yeah.
Hall.
Mhm.
So
Do you have to be voted in or have any specific qualifications to be in the Kiwanis?
The club will look at someone that they want to be the president and said, would you consider being president? And then it goes from there. And I have the unique experience of being the longest serving president, because you only served 1 year, but it so happened the gentleman before me had a heart attack at one of our meetings and died.
Oh my goodness!
And the vice president was, at that time, was Gordon Lewis, and I was president-elect, and Gordon didn't want to step in. So they asked me would I come in, so I actually served longer than 1 year. So I'm the only one, as far as I know, that, well, I'm sure I'm the only one that's actually served over a year.
I see. Now,
And one
current,
thing we had there that might be of interest, the county court system came to us and asked if we sponsor a home for girls that that couldn't go home. So we made an arrangement at a house right before you, on Fifi, right before you go out of Bridgeton. It was a real old house. In fact, I think they even had marks of where Indians maybe had shot arrows, and it's still there as far as I know. And we sponsored a house there for it wasn't necessarily Bridgeton girls. In fact, most of them was from the city, but we sponsored a home and we went there and took the girls out to Christmas and do things with them, and so we did that.
is that still operating?
No, they closed, for some reason they moved the girls to another location, and so that ended that project. So, but we've been involved in quite a few things.
How, what is the age requirement to be a senior?
To be a senior?
You said that you have,
Well, from my memory, we usually talk about 65.
okay,
I'm not so sure if somebody come in at 62 wanted to do something, we wouldn't turn them away. I mean, but we was very fortunate. I don't think she was on the first board, but a lady by the name of Elizabeth Wood came on and was very active, and she got a lot of programs, and my mother got real involved, with the senior citizen. They used to make quilts and so forth at the community center.
What is your mother's name?
Louise Ranson, she's passed away now.
And where did she live?
She lived the last 10 years of her life in Brittany Acres in Bridgeton. I moved her to be close to us, and so I put her up in an apartment in Brittany Acres. So,
Yeah. Now, you say you have 4 children. They all went through Pattonville.
That's correct.
Do any of them still live in Bridgeton?
Well, one thing, Bridgeton meant a lot to all of them, and I have bring out one little story. I have my youngest daughter was an agent out in Phoenix, Arizona, and became divorced and became a single mom, and she wanted to come back to San Luis, and she insisted that she wanted to live in Bridgeton, so that meant a lot to her, and she wanted her kids to go to Pattonville. So she came back, and she moved into Carrollton, got her house in Carrollton.
Is she still in Carrollton?
No.
Because I didn't think there was much left to.
No. She then moved over to she stayed in Bridgeton. She moved over Taylor Oak, I think was the name, the name of the street. And now she's moved out of the area, but she still keeps the office here. She took over my office. So, So this year, in fact, we were actually, because I just talked to her, celebrating 50 years in Bridgeton between her and me. But actually, I think she's a year off, because this is 12, and I started in 61. But I know last year she was talking to me, we've been here for 50 years, an agency. So.
So, how old is this daughter?
She's born in 61, and she's 51.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, but the others do not live around in this area?
No, I got one son who's in South Dakota, and he had worked with the Lakota Indians.
Really?
And he's done a lot of work with the Lakota Indians, but he's somewhat backed out of that now, but for years he went through all the tribal things and everything so he went through all their ceremonies and so forth. So, and then I got another son that he lives out in Troy, Missouri, and then I've got a daughter that the one thing I was saying about one of the things that I thought helped Bridgeton was Ozark, and they gave jobs, and my daughter, when she got out of high school, immediately went to work for Ozark, and she just got laid off by American, but she's been in that business for over 30 years.
Wow.
So
what did she do for the airlines?
Oh, she did a lot of different things. You name it. It was mostly office in their main office. What she did the last 2 or 3 years, she would go out to like Fargo, North Dakota, and get American Airlines ready to come in and meet with the businesses, and she would set out, and she went to Manhattan, and she'd meet with the Chamber of Commerce, and when when American Airlines decided to fly out of Manhattan, she was there and had all the arrangements made ahead of time, Bloomington, Illinois, so she was doing things like that. But she'd done the accounting work and everything else she was with Ozark, then TWA, and then American. So, and she was one of the fortunate ones until here at last, because when Ozark went under, a lot of people lost their jobs, and then when TWA went out, almost all of them lost their job, but she somehow managed to scoot through the corners. But this time with American going bankruptcy, they caught up with her, and mostly because of how much pay she was making.
Oh.
And because the people they kept was all much lower pay. They let the higher pay people go.
Where does she live?
She lives in St. Peters, Missouri.
Oh, just across the river, so to speak.
Yeah.
And where do you presently live?
I live in St. Peters.
You do?
I just moved there not quite a year yet. So.
Well, were you involved in the Carrollton, the buyout then?
Yes. But I didn't go to St. Peters. I went over and Park Place Estate. And in fact, I think I was the first one to move into Park Place Estate there, which is like a block from Brannies.
Right.
You can't get there as a bird flight, you have to go around to get to it.
Yeah.
But in fact, the tornado that came through would almost had come through my backyard if I had still lived there. I had moved by that time, but it became just Highway 70 and the Rock Road, which I can see from my house, and Brannies, and I'm only like a block south of the Rock Road, so it came pretty close to where we was at.
Wow, I see.
So,
So you have seen a lot of changes in Bridgeton.
yes, yes.
One big change I know was the building of Northwest Plaza. So you must have been here when
Yes.
Northwest Plaza was
Yes.
first being built in what, the 60s?
Yeah, I would say so, yes. So, yes, and Julius Telstra, I know, was on the committee when he had the hardware store up here in Carrollton. And I know he was on the committee when they made a decision what would be part of St. Anne's and what would be part of Bridgeton.
So that was a big, big deal for St. Anne and Bridgeton.
Yes, it was.
And did your children spend time going to the mall and walking
Oh,
around?
yes, in fact, my wife, up to the day we moved, she was still walking at the mall,
Oh,
even though it was pretty well gone. In fact, she talked to someone yesterday that still walks there. She can get in by going through the bank building and still walks around the mall. So it was a good walking area for the people that want to go up for a walk.
it has really kind of come almost full circle, hasn't it?
Yes, yes.
And I truly hope that some other enterprise will come in and develop that again.
Yeah.
If not shopping, then something else will take that area and develop it. We also had another big thing with the Earth City development, which right now we're sitting at the Banker Hill Farm, which almost looks over the Earth City area. Do you remember when they first started talking about developing Earth City?
Oh, yes, in Champ Village. I remember them very, very well. And in fact, Bridgeton tried to get a port of Earth City, and they came up with one person who I understand lived in Earth City, and he wouldn't, so he was able to stop it. They did not want Earth City to be part of Bridgeton.
What was the argument, do you know?
I don't know the argument, but I think one of the mistakes that our city made was that Maryland Heights came to our city many, many years ago and wanted to be part of Bridgeton, and we turned them down because they said it would cost too much to upgrade their streets, and today Maryland Heights is now a city of its own and doing pretty well. And with us losing the northern part of our city, it'd been nice we could have picked that up.
Right, right. Well, they have, of course, some big things with the Harris Casino and their big aquaport. I think is a big, nice and community center.
So,
But Bridgeton is still doing pretty well with the industrial and the commercial businesses we have.
Yeah.
And you say your daughter is still operating your insurance company out of Bridgeton?
it's not mine anymore, it's hers. So,
What is her name?
Kathy Bowden, and she's right there on the Rock Road at McKelvey, that shopping center where Kohl's is. She's in that shopping center.
Oh, I
But
see.
it so happens she's getting ready to move. She bought a building about a block away, and she'll be moving in there. So, with the next 2 or 3 months.
I
As soon
see.
as they get it redone, she'll be moving in there, and she'll have a standalone office. So,
But that will still be in Bridgeton.
still be in Bridgeton, yes, yes. So,
Would you like to tell us anything else what you remember about Bridgeton while your children were growing up?
well, I think I'd like to maybe say a little bit about when I first came out here. It was a town, and overnight it became a city.
Is that the way it seemed?
To me, it seemed that way. I mean, I came to the city of St. Louis, and there we lived in 4-family flats and no place to park our cars and everything else. And it was such a joy for me to be able to pull up beside my house and every night, and I had to worry about finding a place to park. And then when I moved into Carrollton Oaks, I got a house with a garage.
Mm.
And man, I was living high on the hog with a garage right there. So, but the city just changed overnight. I think the highway systems, I think the bridge over the river, I think was completed maybe like in 1960, somewhere in that line, and they was building 270. So the arteries was right here for our town. That made it real convenient, and McDonald was going great, and they was bringing in engineers, and Carrollton was going great. And I think St. Lawrence also, until St. Lawrence was built, which is a Catholic church, I'm not Catholic, I think the further west church was at that time was Fifi, and so it got out here, and I think it helped the Catholics quite a bit. Here, I guess St. Mary's was where they had to go to, which was a pretty good ways down the line. So I think the Catholic Church came, Ozark, McDonald, and Carrollton was a unique subdivision at its time. I mean, it was different from St. Anne's or like I said, the city of St. Louis. You had a place that a small lot, but at least you could do landscaping, and it had a lot of advantages. It was a different type. It was a big difference for me, and I remember coming in the garage and I push a button and the door would go up, and that technology I think was only like 3 or 4 years when at that time, and that garage door would open all that. So those are little things that happen. So.
And what about the Carrollton Shopping Center? That was very close and
Well, the
convenient.
Carrollton Shopping Center, I do remember a unique story. They were bowling there one day, and they started yelling, "We got a fire! We got a fire!" And it so happened it was on April the 1st. Everybody said, "Oh, they're April fooling." It wasn't, and so they couldn't get the people out because they thought it was an April Fool's joke.
Oh, was the fire in the bowling alley?
Yes, the bowling alley was closed down for a couple of years. It burned. So, and we had an IGA store up on the one corner that was pretty popular, and so, and one of the things that the Kiwanis Club used to do for a fundraiser, I remember we used to stand out in front of the two grocery stores and try to get people to give a donation for a rose, and they would give us money for it, and we'd give them a rose, and that was a fundraiser that we had up there. Not only there, but other places also. So, I don't know what else I can tell you about there. I believe there was a barber there by the name of Ross Kirkendall, and his daughter was quite talented in Pattonville High School, and he left that and went to Nashville, and they had a hit song and I think it called themselves the Kindles.
Oh, really?
So if you ever heard of a hit song about the Kindles, well, that was a barber up here in Carrollton Shopping Center.
How about that?
And my daughter went to school. One of her good friends married Wayne Gretzky.
Really?
Right. She was a good friend of hers. They went to school together. And Jones, I think her name was. I can't remember. Janet Jones, I believe, was her name. Yeah. And but she married Wayne Gretzky, so a little celebrity, I guess, there. So, but we had a gentleman in our club, and that's why we got so much involved in the parks. He was unbelievable. Nobody could understand how he was getting all these grants, but up until like 62, I guess, or 63, Bridgeton had no parks. And the one on Guest Road, it escapes my Freeborn, I believe, was the first park that actually became a part of Bridgeton. And he was able to get grants and Spanish Village Park and all these parks. He was able to get grants, and that's why the Kiwanis Club got so involved with the parks. So he was involved with the Kiwanis Club.
The parks are very, very you know, great for the community. You had the green space, you have people feeling like safe getting out and exercising. You know, they made the trail around the community center a couple of years ago. And I tried to walk the trail in the mornings when the weather's pretty decent, and not long, but a little aerobic. And I see people all the time using the trail, which is nice. Our community center is also very well used.
Yes, yes. I said I was involved in that right off the bat with the senior citizens, so I was on the committee and as the Kiwanis representative, and we try to, if they had, like I mentioned, the barbecue, anything they wanted that we might would be able to assist them in, then that was, I would bring back things from our board meeting that maybe we could do and help them. We've been heavily involved with the I can't think the charity, they killed me, because I was on that board too. It's out of art in the community health ministry.
Oh, yes.
And I was on that board at one time, but the Kiwanis have been involved with them quite a bit and try to help them out as much as we can.
How many members do you think there are in Kiwanis presently?
Well, they stay pretty consistent around 40.
I see.
So they come and they go, but we stay consistently around 40, and so.
Was your wife also involved in Kiwanis?
No, she was not. But she has a Bible study. She comes here for 25 years, I guess, and she makes it the Church on Natural Bridge, Presbyterian Church. And is it still there? I can't remember. Maybe I can't remember. I think they moved, didn't they? But it used to be not far from here.
John Calvin.
Yeah.
It's in the old Circuit City building.
Yeah, and she's still, I guess 25 years, she's had a Bible study there. Unfortunately, it started out as being for senior women. Today, she caught up with them in age. so she's their age now. But, so it's primarily older ladies that want to be in Bible study, and she teaches that here.
I see. Well, good. Well, thank you for talking to us today. It was nice meeting you,
Well, thank you.
and we hope that you continue being involved in Bridgeton and come back whenever, there's something going on with Kiwanis. I hope to see you. Joe and I are always up at the community center doing something and, involved in historical commission.
Right.
Or swimming. Or,
Yoga. Thank you, Charlie.
yeah, thank you.
So you know anything about the Gentry House, do you?
Yeah, a thing or two.